proposals submitted were actually awarded. We have great top funders, National Science Foundation, Small Business Administration, et cetera. You have those here in your materials. We have great activity in our schools. We have some schools who we do hope are much more active in proposal submissions. But here's where we are. In our current estimate for FY25 is that our research expenditures are sitting at about 42 million. 41.6 or so, but rounded up to 42 million. We are not yet at the minimum criterion for those research expenditures. We do know it's very clear that we have to scale up first our research activity and our research expenditures, obviously. To do that, we need to make sure that we are resourcing the right way, we're putting in resources, because in order to make money and spend money, you have to have an infrastructure that's strong enough to scale up. And so that's going to be a major focus for us and priority. So we're still short of that 50 million research expenditure. The next data pool will likely be in 2027 for 2028 announcement. So we are 1 year in, the next 2 years. We're definitely going to make sure we're very focused on achieving at least an average of a 50 million research expenditure. The main point I want you to take away today, though, is that to be an anchored powered R1 will put us on the book, definitely, for Rutgers University. It is hard to be an anchor in the first place. It's hard, but if you have the anchor part right, which is the hardest part, research one is not as difficult. It really isn't. But if you can have the couple, those two coupled together, imagine what we can do as an anchored empowered institution. So that is our top priority. Just a reminder, it also includes inventions and patents and disclosures. One thing about R1 is when you get that reputation, corporations want to be next door to you. Because they know that you are producing something, you are innovating, you have spin-off companies. They want to be right next to an R1. Years ago, people in Texas pretty much understood it. Many neighbors in Texas realized, they looked at the data and said, wow, there's something about being next to an R1. Where companies start to come to your area, come to your towns, people begin to, want to be there and spend money there. There is a correlation between economic scaling up and achieving R1. Hence, people are chasing R1 around the country. It's not just for the university, but it's for the economy of that state. I'll quickly just talk about graduation rates. I mentioned this before. When you look at our 6-year graduation rates, we're doing pretty well. We're usually above the national average going back to 2013. But again, the biggest goal for us is 4-year graduation rates, because that ties to student debt. Got to get in and got to support them while they're here, and then also make sure that they're not going into deeper debt by staying after 4 years. So we're focusing on the 4 years. Enrollment is up, right? See overall 3.2%. You can read that in your charts, but we're sitting at 11,672. I know it says 673 up there, but there's been an adjustment after our authorized reporting and census reporting in DataMark. Social mobility, part of student success, part of what we do here at Rutgers Miller is we build a system that is going to support everyone, regardless of your background. And in doing that, what we have done is when we look at our students coming in, who they're mostly eligible students, when they go out though, the people who are studying social mobility are saying those folks, when you do the math, with their lifetime earnings, their starting salary, et cetera, they are well above and stronger than economically than when they came into that institution. So we are doing something right, definitely. We have to build that system also around the barriers the students face, our students face as they come in. So they're all things that can arise as they're on that opportunity path to get to the degree. So we have a care team that's been established that builds a case management system around students who are experiencing various challenges as they move through to the degree, as they matriculate. So we're showing you here the various areas that we have developed an organized system in order to intervene as necessary to make sure that their academic progress is not undermined. Financial, housing insecurity, mental health, et cetera. Career resources. We have students who don't have nice seats. They're going, they want to go to the career fair. get an interview, they don't have the nice clothing that is, or the business attire that is expected, and so we have clothes closets. We have a headshot studio that buys their funds so they can do a professional headshot. And so we're doing quite well in that area in supporting our students, and we want to, of course, expand it. And then the final thing of importance I mentioned on that earlier slide is that operational excellence is very important to us. Our business practices, our business intelligence, if we can just improve in that area as well, all of the other areas of success will follow, certainly will. So we are looking at more data-informed systems that are going to provide us with data quickly, as quickly as possible, near real time is really what I'd love to see, so that we can make decisions, so that we can develop strategies, so we can take steps as we're trying to build relationships to expand our research or expand our student success. So data-powered decision making is something that we would like to focus more on. Now, I know it's not always thought of as a business practice, but branding is all about the symbolic marketable reputation of your university. And we are working very hard to really strengthen the brand of Rutgers University Newark. You may all have heard when someone says Rutgers University, they're not necessarily thinking of Rutgers University Newark. They're thinking of Rutgers University New Brunswick. And so we are working on better marketing so that people know that there's a Rutgers University Newark. What I've heard here is we have students or high school students in wards next door to us who had no idea there was a Rutgers University in Newark. And I've heard this more than once. And I've heard it from high school teachers. So there's something about how we present our brand and the pervasiveness of our brand that we need to spend more time on. And you see our folks, we wear the brand here, Rutgers University Newark, okay? People have their pens on, and I always tell people, don't come to work without that pen. And, you know, I know it means you left it on your pajamas, but keep one on your desk, so you have one at work. Okay, but we are committed, and we wear the brand here. All right, this concludes what I'm going to say, but I did want to remind you that I'm going to have listening sessions. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from all kinds of stakeholders so that we can all listen and learn and be able to build a shared vision. Okay, build a shared vision and mission for this particular university. Thank you today for your time and attention. I appreciate it. And I'll be here afterwards if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Chancellor, and thank you for bringing so many of your colleagues to the microphone today. It's wonderful to put faces with names and hear the wonderful stories of the work firsthand. Before I step aside, does anyone have any questions for the Chancellor today? Wonderful. Thank you very, very much. I'm excited to hear the developments, and we'll look forward to hearing back on all of your priorities and opportunities following your listening session.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you again. Now we have the distinct pleasure of welcoming another colleague today to the Board of Governors meeting, Athletic Director Kelly Zinn, who comes to us also with a wealth of experience in collegiate athletics, leadership. I am personally proud to say she's one of 3 female ADs out of 18 in the Big Ten. Super proud that Rutgers is leading on that. But more importantly, Kelly leads us with experience, commitment, knowledge, and leadership, which is what we need building through a really challenging and developing time in college athletics. I can't emphasize enough the privilege of having a new president who brought us in, so we have alignment from right at the top through our athletics program as we navigate changes and opportunities in a really exciting time for athletics and college sports. So it's absolute pleasure to welcome you, Athletic Director Kelly Zinn.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you everyone for having me. I'm going to start off with just a few highlights in the world of athletics. As you know, we are well into our fall semester, and we have a few programs to highlight specifically. The first is our field hockey program, who currently checks in at number 15 in the country. They're doing an incredible job as we get ready to host the #1 team in the country, Northwestern, on Friday. And so we're seeking everyone to come out and cheer those young ladies on as they continue their quest to have a really great season. Men's soccer is currently ranked number 13, the highest we've been since 2021, and their record at home sits undefeated at 6-0, and so they too will host this weekend. Washington is coming in on Friday, and we welcome everyone out to cheer on those guys. And then tomorrow afternoon, a really special moment will take place with our girls program, where they will participate in the tradition of ringing of the bells at Old Queens. This marks the team's historic performance, winning the Island Challenge Cup at the Henley Royal Regatta this past summer. And so we will be joining them for that historic moment in their history. As you can imagine, and a little over 2 months in, it's been a busy time in the world of college sports, and specifically here for Rutgers. But I would be remiss if I didn't just take a moment here publicly to say how great the past couple months have been. For myself, my husband, the reception we've received from everyone, it's just been a significant source of motivation. And I stand before you today very encouraged with what I've seen for our future. And I say that because I've had the opportunity to really take a deep dive into our programs, where we're at, what our history looks like, and we've since kind of moved in the direction of rolling up our sleeves and seeking to improve the trajectory of our program and our athletics department as a whole. Everybody who follows it closely knows we have a lot of work to do, but I am optimistic about the opportunity that exists in order to put together a program that's extremely competitive, not just in the Big Ten Conference, but also nationally. And a big reason that I say that, for those of you who follow college sports really closely, is a result of what happened on July 1st when we ushered in what we refer to as the new collegiate model via the House settlement. A House settlement, which was a court case that ended with an opportunity to share revenue directly with student athletes for the first time in the history of college sports. And so if you flash back a little bit, I stand before you with 23 years of experience, and we've had a number of things in the history of college athletics that got us to this point. When I started in the business many years ago, the scholarships were limited to tuition, fees, room, board, and books. That was the max that you could give to any individual young lady or young man participating in sports. And then a few years passed, and everyone recognized that athletes, while they were permitted to hold jobs and work, that was not realistic for the demands and pressures that existed for them both academically and competitively. And so we found ourselves in a place where we were able to offer cost of attendance in addition to the tuition, fees, room, board, and books. Flash forward a few years later, and we introduced the academic enhancement program that, on top of cost of attendance in the form of a scholarship, $5,980 to go to student athletes each year in response to their academic performance. And then in 2021, name, image, and likeness arrived. For the first time in the history, it was determined and became permissible for student athletes to be able to profit from their name, image, and/or likeness. Without a lot of guardrails, there were some things that transpired within that space, but that went beyond brand partnerships and corporate opportunities. And instead, you had donors, in some cases, who had significant opportunity in the financial space to directly compensate student athletes, not necessarily the intent of name, image, and likeness, but nonetheless without some parameters. We all watched that here over the past 3-4 years. And so there's been, again, a history to get us to a point where now we find ourselves in a place with a really good opportunity for not just Rutgers, but the collegiate landscape as a whole, an opportunity to share revenue directly from the proceeds that come in as a result of tickets, TV revenue, and also corporate sponsorships. That is to the tune of $20.5 million for each school across the country that chooses to do so. And when I say choose, really, if you're going to choose to be competitive, you're choosing to support that revenue share. That equates to 22% of the athletics revenue that was constructed and calculated across the average of the Power Four conferences. And so essentially 22% go directly to those student athletes. And I share that because while there are a lot of opinions on where we're at today, it seems very fair, and I would hope that we all agree that 22% of that revenue should in fact go to our student athletes. That is discretional, and schools across the country are able to determine where that revenue goes to as a result of it coming from the source of ticket revenue, media and TV, as well as corporate sponsorships. As you can imagine, the bulk of that has been returned to football and men's basketball specifically. Why? Because those are the direct producers of that revenue, but it is in fact discretional. And so what's happened over the past couple months in looking at our decision to invest the $20.5 million in our student athletes, which was a great decision made by the university to do so. On top of that, name, image, and likeness still exists. This has been widely reported. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it today. And instead, I'll share that arguably our biggest deficiency to compete competitively both within the league and beyond was a result of not having an infrastructure in place to effectively support name, image, and likeness. If you go back to 2021, and certainly I was not here at the time, but over the past 4 years, numerous schools across the country very quickly put together an infrastructure to effectively navigate that space. And in the absence of it, what's happened is our coaches have taken on an incredible burden to do that themselves at a time when we seek to allow them to recruit and compete effectively, develop young men and women in the field of play and beyond, both support in their academics and their social progression. They had to essentially do that in the absence of an infrastructure within the athletics department. And so what myself and our team have done over the past 2 months is put together an infrastructure that now will effectively navigate the space of name, image, and likeness. You then layer that with our commitment for the revenue share, which essentially puts us at a level playing field for those across the country who have also invested that $20.5 million. And we now have an opportunity to compete for the best. Why? Because we have it all. You have heard on numerous occasions the incredible opportunity that exists here academically. I'll share with you, you may already be aware that the athletics department is doing a great job in that space. We came into the year boasting a 3.39 cumulative GPA across the department, which is extremely competitive and among our highest marks. But where we need to make some progress is in the world of competitive success. And we will in fact do that with a strategy that allows us to position our rosters and young men and women to be successful in a space that is extremely competitive across the country, but one that brings an incredible amount of value, not just to the university that it sits in, but also the state, the region, and beyond. And so that is the commitment of myself and my team. We will continue to do so, and you will hear in the future about some of that strategy in more detail. Any questions?
Thank you very much. I'll open the floor. Does anyone have any question? Wonderful.
Okay, hearing none, but we will take this week as an opportunity to celebrate name, image, and likeness. So keep your eyes open, and if you're joining us this weekend, you're in for a great surprise and a real treat as we highlight the celebration and opportunity that exists in that space. Thank you all.
Thank you again very much. We'll now move on to committee briefings. We will start with Dr. Doherty on the Committee on Academic and Student Affairs, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Early Committee on Academic and Student Affairs meeting on September 25th. Members endorsed 4 proposed resolutions renaming the Omar Bore Chair of Genomic Science, creating the Michael Kochfeld Endowed Legacy Fellowship, establishing the Professional and Interdisciplinary Master of Engineering degree program, and an appointment to the Endowed Professorship in Arts and Health. The committee also heard updates on academic programs and approved 9 candidates for academic tenure appointments. Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. We will now hear the report on the Committee on Finance and Facilities from Senator Colby.
Thank you, Chair. The Committee on Finance Facilities held a meeting on September 26th. And in our first in-person meeting, we took another opportunity to thank my predecessor as chair, Talal Galal, for his service to that committee and to the board during very difficult times for the institutions of higher education, as we had in prior virtual settings. The committee also endorsed 9 resolutions, including the authorization of a grant application through the FTA, approval of revolving credit support, authorization of formally bid contract for bus services, approval of a contract extension with Elsevier, approval of renovations and renaming the Jameson Residence Hall D, authorization for negotiation with PSE&G for 2 separate easements, and approval for facility improvements and plant reduction. I note that Mr. Johnson and I had a conversation about those resolutions which required the trustees to concur. And Mr. Johnson indicated that the trustees would be concurring. The meeting concluded with an update from Mr. Gower, and I'd like to thank him for his work on the short-term credit opportunities, and a report from Mr. Calcato on the maintenance program. I'd also like to thank Kimberly Lewis and Mr. Calcato for the work in preparation for that meeting and the conversations we had with the members in advance of the session. Madam Chair, that is my report.
Thank you very much, Senator Hovey. We will now receive the Committee on Audit, Risk and Compliance from Ms. Mansour.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Committee on Audit, Risk and Compliance met on September 17th. It began with updates from Mr. Gower on the annual financial statement audit and Ms. Dolce, the controller, in regard to her role and her work with the external auditors, KPMG. Committee also received an update from Mrs. Honig on Rutgers audit and compliance functions, a report from Mr. Simon on university ethics and compliance, and a report from Mr. Hoare on audit and advisory services. Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mansour. The board will now hear a report on the Committee on Health Affairs from Mr. Taffin, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Committee on Health Affairs met and held a robust meeting on September 18th, 2025. We received detailed update on the New Jersey Alliance for Clinical and Translational Science, also known as NJACS, Dr. Panettiere, as well as the Chancellor's report from Dr. Strom, and a financial update from Ms. Cromwell. In addition, the committee also heard a university behavioral health care update from Dr. Ganassi and a brief report on the bylaws for the Rutgers School of Nursing and the Rutgers School of Medicine. And finally, we welcome 2 new Board of Governors members, Governors Vasquez and Fixmer, to our team. That's all, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taffin. The board will now receive a report from the Committee on